Andrew eased his beat-up truck into the driveway, tires crunching over gravel like they were trying to belt out a country tune nobody asked for. He hit the brakes, the engine wheezing one last time before dying, leaving behind that rare late-afternoon quiet every neighbor knew was worth its weight in gold. He shoved the door open, work boots thumping onto the ground, and right then, thud! A dumb little noise popped off near the fence, like someone just dropped a stainless steel pan mid-tick-tock cooking flex. He turned his head, hands still on his keys, eyes flicking over the front yard. Dry grass, scruffy bushes, nothing but a couple of birds that had ditched for greener pasture since sunrise. But before he could shrug it off, Karen stormed in. A 45-year-old tornado dressed like a suburban mom on a mission. Her beige heels, the kind she probably snagged from Target to level up, clacked on the opposite sidewalk like an old typewriter throwing a tantrum. She charged across the street, her oversized sweater flapping like a victory flag at a soccer mom rally, and hollered, "Who gave you the right to park that rolling junk pile here?" Andrew straightened up, letting the keys drop into his jeans pocket with a faint clink, a silent comeback that didn't waste breath. "This is my driveway, Karen," he said, voice low and steady. "The kind you'd use to explain to an auntie at Walmart that the melons aren't running off anywhere." But Karen wasn't listening. She never did. She stomped onto the gravel, kicking up pebbles like a kid mad about screen time limits, then jabbed a finger at him. "This thing's trashing the neighborhood. I heard a noise. You dropped something. You vandal." Without waiting for a reply, she yanked her iPhone from her pocket, fingers swiping the screen like an Instagram junkie flipping filters on a latte pic. 911. "I need someone out here now," she barked into the phone, voice shrill like a smoke alarm stuck on loop. "There's a sketchy guy parking right in front of my house. He just dropped something. I heard it loud and clear. He's totally out to wreck the place." The phone buzzed like crazy in her grip, but she clung to it, and right then, a zip ripped through the air from the bushes by the fence, like someone yanked a hoodie zipper so hard it split the seam. Karen whipped around, eyes popping like she'd just caught the cookie jar bandit red-handed. "See? He's got backup." She lunged at the bushes, snatching a dry branch and hurling it down like she was aiming for the State Fair strongman prize. The stick bounced off Andrew's leg, dust puffing up onto his jeans, but he just stood there, picking it up. Not a natural break, but a clean slice at the base, like someone had prepped it with pruning shears. "Backup, huh?" he said, voice low but sharp enough to poke at the steaming pile of paranoia spilling out of her head. Sirens wailed in the distance, rolling through the neighborhood like the soundtrack to a low-budget reality TV train wreck. Karen thrust her phone up, hands shaking like she just won drama queen at the PTA meeting, shouting, "He's tearing up the fence! Send the SWAT team or something!" But she didn't catch, or didn't care to, that the bushes rustled again, a pair of muddy sneakers peeking out then ducking back fast as lightning, leaving a wet streak on the grass that any nosy neighbor would know didn't just sprout up on its own. Andrew shoved the keys deeper into his pocket, brushing dust off his jeans, voice cutting through the sirens. "You called 911, Karen. What now?" But before she could snap back, a tiny beep chirped from the bushes, like someone fumbled a TV remote, and a cool breeze swept through the driveway, carrying the faint whiff of fresh-cut grass. Andrew stood still, eyes narrowing at the bushes. This quiet afternoon was about to turn into a full-on circus, and he had a front-row seat to who was holding the ringmaster's whip. The siren wailed in the distance, cutting through the neighborhood like the intro to a dated Cops rerun. Andrew stepped onto the sidewalk in front of his house, work boots hitting the still warm asphalt, hands shoved in his pockets after that driveway showdown with Karen. But peace didn't stand a chance. 2 cops jumped out of the patrol car, boots slamming the pavement hard enough to kick up a dust cloud, looking like they'd just been called to audition for a low-budget action flick. Karen barreled forward, her oversized sweater flapping like she'd escaped a PTA meeting gone wild, pointing at Andrew like she'd been self-appointed prosecutor of the cul-de-sac. "That's him!" she shrieked, voice screeching like a busted megaphone at a high school pep rally. "He's wrecking this neighborhood!" Andrew stood still, pulling his keys from his pocket and holding them up like a not guilty plea in court. "This is my house," he said, voice low and steady, The kind you'd use to tell a cashier at Target your coupon's still good. I just parked in my driveway. But Karen didn't care. She never cared about anything that didn't fit her personal Netflix drama script. She stomped her foot, those beige Target heels clacking on the sidewalk like an old typewriter throwing a fit. "He parked that thing to threaten me," she yelled, arms flailing like she was swatting mosquitoes at a backyard barbecue. "I heard a noise. He's up to something. I know it." The short-haired cop, the type who looked like he'd just chugged 3 Starbucks espressos, raised a hand to halt the chaos, barking, "Both of you, freeze! Who's talking first?" But before Andrew could even open his mouth, a loud thwack cut through the air. An old folding chair parked on the sidewalk collapsed out of nowhere, one leg snapping clean off and rolling into the street like it had been karate chopped. Karen spun around, eyes bulging like she'd just spotted the suburban Loch Ness monster. "See? He's got accomplices," she screeched, jabbing a finger at the chair like it was Exhibit A in a murder trial. The cop with shades, the kind who seemed ready to draw a gun but probably forgot it at home, darted over, hoisting the chair up. "This was rigged to break," he snapped, pointing at the leg. Not a natural snap, but a tiny drilled hole, like someone had prepped it with a Home Depot drill bit for maximum chaos. "Who messed with this?" he demanded, glancing at Karen, but she didn't wait. She yanked her iPhone back up, yelling into the dead line. "They're trashing my stuff. Send the SWAT team now." The short-haired cop lunged, snatching the phone from her grip, voice icy. "Chill out, lady. Let us handle this first." He turned to Andrew. "Your truck?" Andrew nodded, pulling the registration from his pocket, handing it over smooth as a diner tip. "Here's the paperwork." The cop took it, eyes skimming the page, but Karen wasn't done. She charged forward, snatching the papers from his hand and ripping them in half like she was shredding Black Friday receipts. "Fake!" she bellowed, scraps fluttering onto the sidewalk like sad party confetti. "It doesn't belong here. I know his type." The shades cop grabbed her arm, yanking her back. "Keep your hands off." But right then, a sharp snap popped from the mailbox by the sidewalk. The lid flew open, and a swarm of tiny bees buzzed out, zipping around like a mini-apocalypse. Karen screamed, stumbling back, arms flailing like she was auditioning for a bug-repellent infomercial. "He's sicking bees on me!" The short-haired cop dashed over, lifting the mailbox lid. Inside was a small hive, stuffed in tight, and a scrap of paper taped to it, scrawled with, "Release bees, 5 p.m. Karen shrieked louder, "See? He did it!" But the shades cop snatched the note, holding it up. "Who wrote this?" Andrew stood still, brushing off a stray bee from the swarm, voice cutting through the buzzing. "You called 911, Karen. What now?" The sirens closed in, red lights flashing from the end of the street, and the bees faded as the crowd backed off, leaving Karen on the sidewalk, her beige heels smeared with dirt. The buzzing of the bees faded as the cops hustled Karen and Andrew into the backyard, dodging the gossip swarm clogging up the sidewalk out front. The backyard was quiet, just a lone apple tree standing still under the moonlight, its leaves flickering like they were waiting for the next act to drop. Andrew stepped onto the grass, work boots leaving faint mud prints on the dry ground, hands still in his pockets like this whole mess was just another Saturday afternoon. Karen, though, was a different story. She thrashed in the shades cop's grip, her oversized sweater soaked from the bee fiasco and caked with dust, those beige Target heels looking like they'd just survived a boot camp obstacle course. "He hired those bees to attack me," she screeched, voice scraping like a blender choking on ice. Andrew stayed put, pulling his keys from his pocket, letting the soft jingle do the talking for him. "I didn't hire anybody," he said, voice low and even, the kind you'd use to tell a grocery store clerk you didn't swipe their cart. But Karen wasn't buying it. She never bought anything that didn't star her as the damsel in distress. "He did it all," she bellowed, arms flailing like she was shooing off a second imaginary swarm. "He broke the chair, let loose the bees. I know his game." The female cop, looking like she just clocked out of an overnight shift at Denny's, stepped up, notepad in hand, voice flat. "Who released the bees? Who trashed the chair?" Karen lunged forward, nearly slipping on the wet grass, finger jabbing at Andrew. Him! He's behind it all to run me off! But right then, a loud whoosh erupted from the corner of the yard. The sprinkler system kicked on, blasting a jet of water square into Karen's chest like a kiddie pool cannon gone rogue. She screamed, stumbling back, arms swinging like a malfunctioning marionette. He turned that on to drown me. The short-haired cop darted over, twisting at the valve in the dirt, but it was busted loose. Water sprang through his fingers like a pint-sized geyser. Someone tampered with this, he barked, holding up the broken valve piece, water dripping off his sleeve onto the grass. Andrew stepped closer, snagging a chunk of plastic from the ground. The sprinkler's connector snapped with a clean slice, like someone had prepped it with a box cutter. This didn't just pop off, he said, handing it to the female cop, voice steady as a weather report. She took it, eyeing the cut, then turned to Karen. You mess with this? Karen lunged, snatching at the plastic, but the Shades cop yanked her back, sending her sprawling onto the soggy grass. Keep your hands to yourself, she shrieked, clawing at the dirt like she was digging an escape tunnel. He's framing me. I'm the victim here. But just then, a figure stepped out from the trees lining the yard. Linda, the neighbor 2 houses down, clutching a Kroger shopping bag, voice shaky but firm. I saw her this afternoon, right by that sprinkler, holding something sharp. Linda fished a small box cutter from her bag, blade gleaming with a bit of fresh grass stuck to it. This dropped from her pocket when she bolted across my yard, she said, passing it to the female cop. The cop held it up, matching the blade to the plastic, a perfect fit for the cut. You sabotaged the sprinkler to pin it on him? She asked, voice cool, as if asking a McDonald's cashier why the fries were unsalted. Karen sprang up, arms flailing. No, she's lying. But the Shades cop scooped a strip of green tape off the grass. It had been holding the cutter, now peeled loose from her sweater pocket in the tussle. What's this then? He snapped, waving the tape in her face. Karen screeched louder, pounding the grass like she was auditioning for mosquito-smacking champ. He planted it. I don't know anything. But right then, a soft thump came from the little apple tree. An apple dropped, rolling across the grass and smacking Karen's shin, making her yelp and flop backward. The female cop grabbed the apple, flipping it over. A tiny nick sliced into the peel, like someone had rigged it to fall on cue. Who cut this? She demanded, eyes locking on Karen. Karen scrambled up, swiping at the apple, but the short-haired cop blocked her, shoving her back down. Quit making it worse, she wailed, voice scraping like a stuck car horn. He did it all. I'm innocent. But Linda stepped closer, pointing at the bushes. I saw her this morning, by that tree, with that box cutter. Andrew stood still, brushing sprinkler water off his sleeve, voice cutting through her yells. You called 911, Karen. What now? The sirens grew louder, moonlight spilling over the backyard, and the drip of water from Karen's sweater pattered onto the grass, like the sad soundtrack to her latest meltdown. The dripping from Karen's soggy sweater faded as the cops hustled her and Andrew onto the neighborhood's main street, leaving the backyard looking like a mini tornado had just blown through. The streetlights cast a warm yellow glow over the still hot asphalt, lone trees swaying like they were trying to stay out of the escalating drama. Andrew stepped onto the road, work boots leaving faint muddy smudges on the pavement, hands in his pockets like the chaos so far was just a noisy neighbor interrupting his Saturday. Karen was a mess, sprawled on the curb, skirt caked with grass and dirt, her beige Target heels looking like they'd trekked through a construction site. He cut that tree to drive me out, she screeched, voice scraping like a rush-hour traffic jam horn. Andrew stood still, pulling his keys from his pocket, letting the faint jingle argue his case without wasting breath. I didn't cut anything, he said, voice low and steady, the kind you'd use to tell a Costco cashier you didn't cut the line. But Karen wasn't hearing it. She never let facts ruin her self-scripted victim show. He did it all, she hollered, arms flailing like she was swatting imaginary flies at a backyard cookout. He unleashed the bees, wrecked the sprinkler. I know his tricks. The female cop, looking like she'd just survived a graveyard shift at a diner, stepped up, notepad in hand, voice flat. Who cut the tree? Who messed with the sprinkler? Karen lurched forward, nearly slipping off the curb, finger stabbing at Andrew. He's behind it all to get rid of me. But right then, a sharp click snapped from her sweater pocket. A tiny recorder tumbled out, rolling across the pavement, red light blinking like it was live streaming her meltdown to YouTube. The Shades cop darted over, snagging it and hitting play. Karen's raspy voice crackled out, sounding like she'd smoked a pack of Marlboros. He doesn't belong here. Trash his yard, cut the sprinkler, get it done tonight. The female cop spun around, shoving the recorder in Karen's face. When'd you record this? Karen lunged, clawing at it, but the Shades cop blocked her, sending her sprawling back onto the curb. Hands off! She shrieked, gripping the asphalt like it was her last shred of dignity. That's not me. Someone planted it. But just then, a figure shuffled out from the street corner. Old Tom, the morning paper guy everyone knew from his creaky bike, holding a crumpled envelope, voice wobbly but firm. Saw her this morning, stuffing this into the neighborhood mailbox. Tom handed the envelope to the female cop, hands trembling like he just delivered the last paper in a downpour. She tore it open, pulling out a folded sheet, a handwritten list. Cut sprinkler, 4 p.m. Release bees, 5 p.m. Call 911, 6 p.m. She held it up. You write this? Karen sprang up, snatching at the paper, but the short-held cop shoved her back down. Quit trashing stuff, she wailed, voice scraping like a busted Walmart PA. No, he's lying. I don't know anything. But then a faint beep chirped from the mailbox by the curb. The lid popped open, not bees this time, but a little nightlight rolling out, cord tangled, blinking like it was sending an SOS. The Shades cop scooped it up. The cord was sliced, end sticky with fresh superglue. Who stuck this here? He barked, holding it out to Karen. She screeched, arms flailing. He did it, I don't know squat. But the short-haired cop grabbed a scrap of paper off the ground. It had slipped from her pocket in the scuffle, scrawled with, Cut lamp cord, 5:30 p.m. What's this, then? He demanded, waving it in her face. Karen lunged, swiping at it, but the female cop blocked her, knocking her back onto the curb. What else you planning to wreck? Karen bellowed, voice like a dying mall speaker. He's framing me. I'm innocent. But right then, a rustling whoosh came from the bushes near the mailbox. Not bees or water, but a pile of dry leaves dumped onto the curb, fluttering like confetti at a failed party. The crowd yelped, stepping back, and a scrawny Domino's delivery kid in a red shirt bolted from the bushes, broom in hand, stammering, She told me to do it. $20 to dump leaves and stir things up. The kid tossed the broom and ran for the corner, but the Shades cop grabbed his collar, yanking him down onto the asphalt. Who's she? The kid thrashed, pointing at Karen. Her, Karen, met me at the pizza joint this afternoon. Karen leapt up, fists swinging like she was aiming for a knockout, but the short-haired cop blocked her, shoving her back. Enough! The female cop raised her radio, voice icy. Check this kid out. Looks like she hired him to mess things up. Andrew stood still, brushing leaves off from the dump, voice cutting through her yells. You called 911, Karen. What now? The sirens closed in, streetlights glowing over Main Street, and the rustle of leaves under Karen's feet played like a sarcastic soundtrack to her half-baked scheme. The rustle of leaves under Karen's feet died down as the cops hauled her and Andrew off Main Street and into his living room. A space that should have screamed IKEA ad vibes, but now looked like the set of a reality TV train wreck gone too far. The warm glow from the ceiling light spilled over the polished wood floor, highlighting a gray sofa and a wooden bookshelf Andrew had probably hammered together years back. He stood in the middle, muddy work boots leaving faint streaks on the hard wood, hands in his pockets like this chaos was just a night interrupted by a neighbor begging to borrow a wrench. Karen, though, was a hot mess, slumped in an armchair, her skirt and oversized sweater drenched from the sprinkler fiasco and littered with dry leaves. Those beige Target heels caked like she'd run a mud marathon. He hired that kid to run me off, she screeched, voice drilling like a power tool stuck mid-job. Andrew stayed put, pulling his keys from his pocket, letting the soft clink cut through her theatrics like an uninvited soundtrack. I didn't hire anyone, he said, voice low and steady, the kind you'd use to tell a grocery clerk the scanner's busted. But Karen wasn't buying it. She never let reality crash her self-directed pity party. He's behind it all, she roared, arms flailing like she was swatting mosquitoes at a campsite. He loosed the bees, cut the sprinkler, dumped the leaves. I know his game. The female cop, looking like she'd just crawled out of a dive bar night shift, stepped in, notepad in hand, voice flat. Who hired the kid? Who cut the sprinkler? Karen bolted from the chair, nearly slipping on the hard wood, finger jabbing at Andrew. Him. He's doing it all to get me out of here. But right then, a sharp click snapped from the corner. The table lamp on the bookshelf flickered and went dark, shadows swallowing half the room like someone flipped the switch on Guess Who's Freaking Out Next. Andrew darted over, lifting the lamp. The cord was sliced clean, wires dangling, the cut fresh as a manicure trim. Someone's been in here, he said, voice steady through the gloom, holding up the severed cord. The female cop flicked on her flashlight, beam landing on the bookshelf. A small drawer popped open, a tiny mic rolling out, red light blinking like it was recording this mess for a Netflix special. The Shades cop lunged, grabbing it and hitting play. Karen's raspy voice crackled out, hoarse like she'd belted karaoke all night. He doesn't belong here. Cut the power, make noise, get it done tonight. The female cop spun around, shoving the mic in Karen's face. You plant this in his house? Karen leaped, clawing at it, but the Shades cop blocked her, knocking her back into the chair. Keep your hands off, she shrieked, gripping the armrests like they were her last lifeline off a cliff. That's not me. He stashed it here. But just then a figure stepped through the front door. Sarah, the neighbor across the street, clutching a spool of thin wire, voice firm. Saw her this morning, by the back door, holding this. Sarah tossed the wire to the female cop, pointing at Karen. She snuck through my yard while I was watering plants. The female cop grabbed the spool, matching it to the lamp cord. Same gauge, same clean cut. You cut his power, she asked, voice cool, as if asking a Taco Bell cashier why the hot sauce was missing. Karen sprang up, arms swinging. No, she's making it up. But the short-haired cop snagged a scrap of paper from under the chair. It slipped from her pocket in the scuffle, scribbled with, Cut lamp cord 6 p.m. What's this, then? He barked, waving it in her face. Karen lunged, snatching at it, but the Shades cop yanked her back. Sit down, she howled, voice like a Dollar Tree speaker on its last legs. He's framing me. I'm innocent. But right then a faint hiss came from the sofa. A cushion shifted, revealing a tiny speaker that crackled to life. Call 911. Pin it on him. Wrap it up tonight. Andrew darted over, yanking it up and crushing it. The speaker shattered, silencing her voice. She planted this, he said, voice slicing through her yells, tossing the broken pieces onto the floor. The female cop raised her radio, voice sharp as a butter knife. Take her in vandalism, false reporting, and harassment. Karen jolted from the chair, charging at Andrew, fists swinging like she was going for a KO. But the short-haired cop tackled her, pinning her to the hardwood. That's enough, she thrashed, clawing at the floor like she could dig her way out of the hole she'd dug. He hired them to frame me. I'm the victim. But the Shades cop scooped a remote from under the sofa. It had tumbled from her skirt pocket. Play button glowing red like it had just triggered the speaker. What's this, then? He snapped, holding it up. Karen wailed, voice scraping like a stuck car alarm. He did it all. I don't know anything. But then a loud thunk hit the window. The blinds rattled and a small rock rolled in, bouncing off the coffee table, leaving a scratch on the wood. Andrew bolted over, yanking the blinds. Moonlight lit up a scrawny figure darting off, vanishing behind the trees out front. The female cop yelled, rushing to the door. Stop! But the figure was gone, leaving the rock with a note taped to it. Cut power tonight, $50. The female cop grabbed the rock, flipping the note. You paid someone to trash his house? Karen lunged, swiping at it, but the Shades cop hauled her back, tightening the cuffs. Take her out, she screeched, voice like a Walmart parking lot megaphone. He set me up. I'm innocent. But the short-haired cop lifted a wire snippet from the floor. It had spilled from her pocket in the struggle, sticky with glue matching the lamp cord. And this? He asked, dangling it in front of her. Andrew stood still, brushing dust from the rock toss, voice cutting through her cries. You called 911, Karen. What now? The female cop nodded, barking into her radio. Got her. Vandalism, false reporting, hiring a goon. The Shades cop dragged Karen out, sirens blaring as the patrol car fired up, and the living room's warm light fell on her pale face as she was hauled off. The crowd's shouts echoing outside. The patrol car's siren gave one last wail as it stuffed Karen in the back and peeled out of the neighborhood, like a cut-rate reality show wrapping its final scene. Andrew stepped onto his front porch, moonlight spilling over the weathered wooden steps, his muddy work boots leaving faint smudges like a quiet period to the night's chaos. The porch was cramped, just enough room for a creaky rocking chair and a wilted potted plant he'd forgotten to water all week, but tonight it was the calmest spot after the storm. The female cop stood beside him under the porch light, snapping her notepad shut, voice flat like she'd just rattled off a diner menu. She's booked vandalism, false reporting, hiring goons. She won't be back to stir up trouble. Andrew nodded, hands slipping into his pockets, voice low and steady. Thanks. But the quiet didn't last. A soft rustle broke the stillness from the bushes near the porch, not loud, just like someone stepped on last week's leaf pile. Andrew turned, pulling his keys from his pocket on reflex, the faint jingle slicing through the night air. A black cat bolted from the shrubs, eyes glowing like cheap LEDs, dragging a tiny collar that rolled to his feet like a late delivery from PetSmart. He bent down, picking it up, a scrap of paper taped inside, scrawled with, "Watch out, it's not over." The female cop lunged, snatching the note from his hand, scanning it like a midnight text from her boss. "Who left this?" Andrew shrugged, tossing the collar onto the steps, voice low. "Dunno. Probably one of her pals." The cat meowed once, then darted into the dark, tail flicking like it was bidding adieu to the drama it stumbled into. The female cop frowned, thumbing her radio. "Sweep the area. Someone's lurking around." But Andrew didn't wait. He stepped to the porch edge, lifting the rocking chair and setting it straight, like he was putting the night to bed on his term. The Shades cop, looking like he'd just jogged from the gym, climbed the steps from the front yard, holding a torn envelope, voice clipped. "Found this under the bushes. Someone ditched it." He dropped it onto the porch, a slip poking out. Not a list or note, but an old bus ticket. Stamped today, 6 p.m., from a stop near Karen's place. The female cop scooped it up, flipping it over. "She hired someone from out of the neighborhood?" Andrew shrugged again, picking up a dry twig from the bushes, voice low. "Looks like she didn't work solo." But then a sharp crack rang from the wilted plant pot. It wobbled and crashed onto the steps, dirt spilling like someone tried cramming extra baggage in there. Andrew darted over, lifting it under the soil. A cheap prepaid phone glinted, screen lighting up at his touch, flashing a text. "Power cut yet? 50 more if you keep going." The female cop grabbed it, swiping the screen, voice cool as a Burger King order gone cold. "She hired another guy to mess with your house?" Karen wasn't around to scream anymore, but the fading siren seemed to mock her half-baked plot. The Shades cop scowled, sweeping his flashlight over the bushes. "I'll check it out. Someone's still creeping around." But Andrew stood firm, handing the phone to the female cop, voice low. "She doesn't give up easy." She nodded, barking into her radio. "Lock down the area. Find whoever sent this." The short-haired cop, now stepping up from the front door, joined them, wiping sweat. "Front's secured. No one's getting in." Andrew lifted the pot, brushing dirt off the steps, voice cutting through the night breeze. "You called 911, Karen. What now?" The female cop snapped her notepad shut, stepping off the porch, signaling the others. "Keep eyes out. She's got friends who aren't done yet." The wind rustled through the porch, moonlight glowing on the wood, and the rocking chair swayed gently, like it was chuckling at the mess that had just blown through. But out by the streetlight, a small figure lingered, cap in hand, eyes flicking toward the porch, then turned, melting into the shadows like they'd never been there. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and follow to watch more exciting videos every day. See you next time, and thank you.